Arkansas. I mean, if you lay down in Arkansas, within seconds you'll be covered by ants, many of whom will be trying to eat you. Have you ever been in Arkansas? It's very different there. Really big bugs.
That's why the armadillo is
Really big bugs. So, self-reflecting in the sense that since we're people and we talk with other people, and as I asked, are we all persons here or people? People, I don't know if people and persons are relatively the same. There are a lot of people in the world, but the number of persons are fewer. So I wouldn't say that all people are persons. Oh my God. I know some people that wouldn't qualify as persons because they are not self-reflecting. But I added, and by the way, that's Peter Singer. They have to be self-reflecting. As a result, one of the weird characteristics of Peter Singer is he doesn't think that other student that's in this room is a person, because it will have to have language and reach the terrible twos, at which point it looks at itself in the mirror and recognizes that it's the self that it sees in the mirror. We call that the mirror effect, or the mirror test, right? Where some primates can do this. Dolphins apparently know that they're the reflection off of the glass or whatever, but not everybody does, and an infant doesn't recognize itself apparently. Anybody check? So Peter Singer doesn't think you're a person until you're about 2 years old. And as a result, in his arguments, he'll say, if you're going to allow abortion, you might as well allow the mother to kill the child if she doesn't want it up until it's around 2. Because there's no real differentiation between womb and post-womb, I guess, right? And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people won't let him into their country, because he says stuff like that. And by the way, he's not really suggesting that women can kill their children if they don't want them, as long as they're under 2. He's not really saying that. What he's doing is saying that if you're going to allow abortion, you might as well allow that. So it's a critique of people that allow abortion. He's not really saying women should be allowed to kill their children. He's saying we really shouldn't be aborting children. I'm sorry I pointed at you when I was saying that. I don't mean to. So I added something to it. I said, or can be expected to become self-reflective. So I'm not just copying Peter Singer, I'm adding to what Peter Singer says, because I'm assuming that some persons aren't self-reflecting yet, but given the right circumstances, they can be. So therefore, by my definition, they're persons, right? Ahead of time, right? But boy, that does get us into the situation where there's lots of people in the world who might even have language, but might not be self-reflective. Because if you look at Charles Taylor's book, The Sources of the Self, by the time you get to the modern conception of the person and the person is self-reflecting, they have to be people that have taken a philosophy class. If you've not been reflecting on yourself before, at least by the time you take a philosophy class, especially if people actually require you to know answers instead of me. I just ask for 300 words. Does that mean you're going to be self-reflective? It might not. So you see there's a problem here. You can look like a person and not really be thinking about yourself as a self in the modern sense.
You're talking about the body.
You can have a body and be a physically observable person. And in fact, I've talked about a particular individual, I almost called him a person, that I raised and I have doubts about because mentally he's incapable of lying or telling the truth or self-reflection on the nature of himself. So I wonder if this one child of mine is a person. Certainly wouldn't want him to vote. He would vote for whoever people tell him to vote for. He wouldn't be able to. And I'm serious about the idea that he can't tell if he's lying or telling the truth. He only responds to people when they ask him questions in a way that he can tell they want him to answer by reading their body language. He's very good at that. One social worker referred to him as a chameleon because he changes to fit the community. So I'm curious, is he a person by this definition? It does what the others that define it consider appropriate to its position and its relationship to them. Follows the rules, basically. And then I have a whole bunch of examples of those that are not persons or arguably not persons. So, for example, a person who and it wants to be euthanized. How do we explain when we in our society, and not just ours, but like the Netherlands and Australia and places that allow euthanization, how do we explain to ourselves how it's right for us to let this person die? Maybe even by active euthanization. We'll give him something that will kill that person. Or passive, where we at least remove all the things that's enabling the person to live.
Well, it's dehumanizing. Like if you define it as not being a person, then it changes the game. But
So in that situation, both I'm calling it an it now, because it agreed, I don't want to live anymore, give me something. I've been in that spot where the person says, give me, this is it, take care of this, I don't want to be here anymore. I explain, I can't do that. He was furious with me. He did die a couple days later. But I still remember how furious he was that I wouldn't arrange for him to be basically killed. He no longer felt like he should continue. So is that my escape route, to say that in that kind of situation a person will ask to be euthanized, and legally we might even agree and actually all sit around the room while they take their last breath and be happy about it? That happens. People would arrange, my death date will be so-and-so, you're welcome to come. People come around and say their last goodbyes, and then they inject, and everybody sees that person die.
I read about something like that in the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And he talks about one of his gurus that he was investigating, how it was a ritual, like he got the family together and he sat there and boom, he just left his body. But it wasn't an injection or nothing. He made a decision to die. Sorry, that was non-topical here.
Well, there was a movie called The Island. It's a Russian movie where the monk literally builds his own coffin and then tells everyone, I'm going to die today. And They're like, you know, he looks just fine, you know, but sure enough, he lies down in the coffin and dies. By the way, he's considered a saint in Russia. By the way, that particular individual. So that's one possibility. The other one is the individual that commits suicide. Very, very touchy topic, of course, because it's almost certain that everyone here has known someone who took their own life. And boy, this is a pretty harsh thing to say, but did that person take their life because they were convinced that they were no longer a person, no longer worth living? I mean, the most historically literary famous ones were Romeo and Juliet. Remember, a pair of star-crossed lovers, right? Juliet takes a particular drug which is going to make her seem dead so that the family buries her, and meanwhile Romeo is supposed to come and take her, and she wakes up, but Romeo's message never gets to him, and as a result he thinks she's really dead, so he goes and he takes poison, so when she wakes up she finds him dead. Why did he take poison? He didn't want to live any longer because she had died. And she wakes up and sees that he's dead, tries to drink the poison, but, oh Cha, I've drunk all and left no friendly drop to help me after, she says, right? So she says, then I'll be brief, oh happy dagger, here rust and let me die. Commit suicide. Famous. What the hell is wrong with these people? Really? The problem was they believed in a particular narrative that was terrible. They needed a better narrative.
Was it terrible though?
How many people has that play caused to commit suicide over love? Man. And yet what was wrong with it? What's wrong with the person that's absolutely convinced, even if they're completely healthy, everything's going well for them, and yet they're depressed, they go to their garage, and they take a shotgun, and they blow their brains out. That happens. People do that. So they believed in a narrative that says, I'm done, I don't want to live any longer. Am I totally off base here? That's evil, isn't it? To think that somebody that took their life did it because of a mistake? Well, I've already gotten myself in enough trouble, I'm sure, on that one. But same thing with someone who's, I call a parasitic organism, because they attack persons. They should be killed to protect persons. They're breaking the rules. They're no longer officially a person because of the activities, and as a result, we should kill them, and we take action against some or all members of the parasitic organism. In other words, a terrorist group or a gang or Venezuelan narcos. Is this my fault, or is this the way we do this? I'm just saying, right? And then the next one, well, that's the individual alone. So a murderer, he's murdered somebody. We argue over this. Are they persons? In other words, should the state kill them, execute them? Do we have capital punishment? Some states do. We go back and forth. We're fighting over this argument, right? We don't know where we want to go with that. Depends on the state. Right? Next one would be it's an animal, like a pig. Thou shalt not kill. And I go to the state fair and I see the young girl all proud of this pig. And right above the pig, you can see the sign next to the blue ribbon that it was valued at $5.94 a pound. Does that girl know they're going to eat that pig? That pig is no longer going to be her friend? Must. I mean, I've never really asked the kids that. I'm sure that the parents would be. They have heavy tools. I'm not gonna ask kids that at the state fair. But yeah, we're going to kill that animal and eat it, and it's delicious. It's not my fault. I grew up in a society that did that, right? You can grow up in societies that don't do that, that believe that all life is sacred. The next thing, of course, would be it's part of the environment that can be used as needed in support of a person's life. Of course, notice we get into conflicts over this too, because I'm a tree hugger. I've grown lots of trees on my little bit of property. My neighbors are all kind of upset, not totally, but they think lawns are important. I like pointing out that according to Michael Pollan, that's kind of funny, The Botany of Desire, lawns are actually, they're overpowering you. Somehow lawns, grass, has psychologically taken over the minds of so many suburbanites that we're spreading lawns across the country, taking up all this space. They don't produce anything. It's just true.
Produce grass.
Not that